looking back, I had no business doing that deal. And I think that's another massive lesson here is that nobody's going to give you permission to do anything. I had a lot of people tell me that it was stupid. I had a lot of banks tell me no. 9 banks told me no before the 10th bank. Tompkins Trust Company in Ithaca, New York told me yes. I met with 100 plus investors for 6 of them to say yes. And I got told that it was a pretty stupid idea by a lot of people very close to me.
Hello, welcome to this episode of Confessions of a B2B Entrepreneur. My name is Tom Hahn, your host, and today we have a massive episode. We have Nick Huber, who I've learned a shed load from over the last couple of years. He essentially has deep experience running normal, or in his words, sweaty startups, got massive on Twitter, used that audience to leverage raising capital, hiring, building businesses, doing big deals. Recently acquired a company called Somewhere.com for a lot of money, and he essentially has 3 big businesses that sit beneath his massive social presence. So it was so good to learn from him. In this episode, we cover more about how he built the social presence and the impact that it has on the businesses, and then his day-to-day in those 3 businesses. So epic interview. Before we jump into that, shout out to Fame.so, the producers of the show. If you like a show like this, if you like guests like this, then go to Fame.so, request a proposal. Let's jump into the chat with Nick right now. Nick, welcome to the show.
Tom, thanks for having me.
So the first thing, I want to break this down into 2 areas. Area number 1 is social and how it's impacted your ability to make money. And then second is more like deals and the business structure. Because obviously I first became aware of you maybe a year and a half ago, primarily, well, probably before that actually, like on MFM a while back. But more a year and a half ago, I was like, wow, how is this guy getting so much attention on X? And what does his businesses do? So first question is, can you take us back to that point where you started getting traction on X? Then I want to go through that journey and try and understand more about how you did it.
It was the golden era of X, and it's not the same. I'll say that to start with. So the people who want to go to X to grow, I think it's a lot tougher now, especially if you do things my way, which is I'm a natural copywriter. I'm written word first. I'm not video. I'm just not that great at it. I need to do more of it. But really 2020, 2021, 2022, is when I started getting serious traction. And I did it by having kind of a 2-pronged approach. One, by writing snappy, good copy that was interesting, and it rubbed some people the wrong way. I understand that. But if you try to make everybody happy on the internet, you'll end up being boring as hell. And the second part of that approach was just to be radically open about what I was doing. I was screenshotting profit and loss statements. I was showing pictures of my buildings that I was buying. I was talking about my deals. I was talking about the purchase prices, the returns, what our plans were, our business model, how we did what we did in the storage business. And that just hadn't really been done before on X. So yeah, I would start writing threads about business and threads about real estate. And for people listening, a thread is a multi-tweet, multi-post style of writing on Twitter. And yeah, thousands of followers started coming in per post. I do the same thing today, and I add maybe 1,000 or 2,000 to 3,000 followers a month. That used to be per day. And I already have a massive base, so it's much different now, but that's kind of how it got going.
Do you think it's just algorithm changes, like maybe prioritizes written content less? Or
I think it's much more about news and virality and video and sports and politics. But there's still some people who are winning and growing on there. So you can study them and look at what they're doing to do that. But it's not my style to kind of just be a relayer of news.
I have seen videos of you doing cold plunges, so.
That's funny because I've been cold plunging for almost 2 years, and I think I've put it on the internet once or twice.
But for you to be able to, and I think the first one that went really viral, it was something like you're sharing the full acquisition numbers for a site, a storage site you're buying, right? So for you to be able to do that, you spent how many years before building the storage company?
This is the big thing. You hit me right in what I wanted to say next, which everybody wants to have a following. Everybody wants to build a big following on social media. But in order to do it, you have to be doing something interesting. Everybody is selfish in the whole world. And on social media, they are especially selfish. So they're scrolling Twitter. And the first thing that smart business people are thinking on Twitter is, what can I learn from this person? If the answer is nothing, they're going to scroll onward and they're not going to follow you. They're not going to trust you. So I had spent 2011 is when I started my entrepreneurial journey in the business storage squad. And 2015 is when we started our real estate development. 2017 is when we got that first building open. 2019 is when we bought a couple more buildings. 2020, we bought more buildings. And 2021 is when I started to take off online. So a lot of people get the cart before the horse and they want to grow a massive following, but they actually haven't done anything yet.
The other lever I think you used really well, you mentioned it just now, was controversy. sometimes, I don't want to make that judgment, but I think you said previously that sometimes maybe too much. But can you explain how you use controversy to get more attention?
Yeah, so a lot of people on X call me out and get upset about something they call rage bait, which is me making a post to make people upset. And yes, I do have a unique sense of humor, and I'll post a picture of a deck that I added to one of my properties to raise rents. And I talk about how I hire people all over the world for $4 an hour. And I talk about, my kid dropping his ice cream, which was a fake story, by the way. And that does get people super fired up. Those go to hundreds of millions of people. They find their way to Reddit. But for the most part, what I talk about is things I believe. But first of all, I hold those opinions pretty loosely. And second of all, in 2021, 2022, it was very against, the pendulum was swinging in the favor of the woke mind virus. And I thought all that was total bullshit. So I spoke my mind, and now everybody's speaking their mind about that stuff, but it pissed a lot of people off back then.
Have you deleted any tweets?
I haven't tweeted something that I'm embarrassed about and went back and deleted it. I have deleted tweets that didn't land right, or I wanted to reiterate and repost a month later or something like that. Yeah, definitely.
I use this strategy on LinkedIn, by the way, and it works like incredibly well. I've had like 20 million impressions on a post. But the one I had to delete was when the hook of the post was about firing someone. And it was like the message was good. Like, it's often the best thing to fire somebody. But the volume of hate, I couldn't deal with it. So like more than half the comments were negative. Why are you showing off about firing someone?
Oh, I love that. I'm not afraid at all to say something that's very true and piss off a lot of the granolas.
The other thing that I think you do well on X is like build the story. Like, there's a number of your posts are not about business. They're about building the story of Nick Huber, like family shots, camping shots, whiskey shots. Is this like just you like posting something you like, or is this like purposeful to help build the aura and the character?
Like, there's no plan around those, that's for sure. It's not like, oh, I need to do 10% family posts, 20% parenting and adventure, and then the rest business or growth. I am a human, and I do fun things with my kids and adventure, and I think it's fun to post about those. But I do think it's important to be a human on social media for sure. There's a lot of robots. There's a lot of people who are so protective of their brand that they are very robotic with how and what they're willing to post. I don't know. I like to be myself, because I think when people get a look into my mind, they really understand my values. They understand who I am. They understand how I think. And that builds a lot of trust for people who end up wanting to become customers of my companies, investors in my storage portfolio, and go deeper with me on a professional or personal level. So, and then I guess if we talk about the next phase of kind of after 2020, 2021 of that growth, it exploded my career on the back end, because people saw me talking about storage, and then we got offline and had lunch or dinner or flew to meet each other or had a couple of video calls to get to know each other. And the next thing I know, I raised $40 million and buy $100 million worth of storage in 2020, 21, 22. So just built a real estate private equity firm on the back of me being a poster on Twitter.
We're going to get to the business and the money stuff. Final question on X is, you are excellent at writing clearly and succinctly. Was that just practice, or do you have any tips for anyone trying to do it?
It definitely came natural to me. I was good at it, and I practiced a ton, both. But some of my friends who are way higher level entrepreneurs than me, they're way more charismatic than me, they're better leaders than me, they're better speakers in person than me. They get in front of a computer and the words just don't come. I have to lock my phone in a box at 5 p.m. to stop, because the words just keep coming. I have a notebook by my sauna. I have a notebook by my bed. I have a notebook outside of my shower, because I can't stop thinking in terms of short, succinct points or lessons or stories. So, and it bleeds all the way over to the way I wrote my book. My editors got the first copy of it and they're like, Nick, this is not a book. This is 300 tweets put together. And it was a lot of work to go back and tell a story in the book, but you read it and it reads like my Twitter. It's short, succinct, to the point. So I think I've gotten a lot of positive feedback about, it's my style, right? I can say, one of my strengths in life is that I can say in 20 seconds what it takes somebody else 2 minutes to say, both on X, but also spoken.
So no real insights for the audience on how they can do it. It's more of a gift.
No, I think practice definitely is an important part of it. There's a course that Sam Parr is a great copywriter. He's the My First Million co-host, which you're familiar with. He has a course called copythat.com, and you get good at writing copy by actually writing it, like literally copying it by hand. Benjamin Franklin, that's how he wrote copy. He copied the great copywriters. That's why it's called copywriting. So yeah, get your computer out and retype my tweets until it starts to come.
We will link to copies of that in the show notes. But okay, let's talk about business and money then. So I want to just map out the journey. So we started with it was the moving company, and then it was storage, I think without significant external investment. And then we started building the X audience, and then we got significant external investment into the storage company. Is that right up until roughly 2021?
We raised for our first couple deals in 2020 because I started tweeting in late 2019. But I raised $5 million for 3 deals or 4 deals when I had 3,000 followers on Twitter. So it started with a very small, niche, valuable audience. So that should be encouraging for people listening that you don't need 400,000 followers to do this. My business accelerated by people I met when I had 3,000 followers. And the lurkers are still around Twitter. They're leaving because it's not as good of a place for people who want to learn and mental stimulation, but they're there. And if you start sharing what you do, the investors will find you because they're always hunting. They're always hunting for opportunities.
And you were able to get the first facility, I think, with cash from the moving business.
So back in 2000, if we rewind, 2015, I was 4 years into running my student storage business, Storage Squad, and I had $500K in the bank. My partner and I did from that business, and we raised another $500K from investors. We borrowed 1.7 from a bank, and we built a self-storage facility for $2.9 million. Opened the doors in 2017, and that one deal has been a total life changer for me. It's worth $8 to $10 million now. We've bought out our partners. We've refinanced it a couple times. We've pulled millions of dollars of tax-free capital out. So, I mean, that's the sweaty startup story, right? Is I didn't start a tech startup. I didn't try to change the world. I did what thousands of other people were doing, and I built a self-storage facility. And that one deal made it so that if I wanted to live frugally, I could never had to work again.
And search Sweaty Startup on Amazon, by the way, for the new book that we'll talk about later. Why was that such a good deal? You had just done the research to find the perfect site, the financing worked out. Why was it such a banging deal?
Timing. You could build a building for $50 a foot, all in, land included back then. You know, that same building would cost $110 a foot to build now, double. And interest rates dropped from 2015 through to 2022. And storage became hot. It was in a market where we picked a good market. We did our research. We got a high traffic piece of land, but we had no business building that building. And I was 24 years old running around trying to get capital and borrow over $1.5 million from a bank. I mean, looking back, I had no business doing that deal. And I think that's another massive lesson here is that nobody's going to give you permission to do anything. I had a lot of people tell me that it was stupid. I had a lot of banks tell me no. 9 banks told me no before the 10th bank. Tompkins Trust Company in Ithaca, New York told me yes. I met with 100 plus investors for 6 of them to say yes. And I got told that it was a pretty stupid idea by a lot of people very close to me.
And so that building is still part of Bolt Storage, which is one of the portfolio companies that you now own. And some of the remaining ones have been acquired with funds acquired through investors from X.
Yeah, definitely. I bought somewhere.com a year ago on May 1st, 2024. I raised $20 million from 39 people, half of which were from X.
When we started popping off on X, we had Bolt Storage, like what was a company, but it wasn't the size it was after you got after you managed to raise money. So we did that. And then what was the next business you started after Bolt Storage and you had the X presence?
That was somewhere.com. I got involved in that business in 2021. 2021, I was a customer first and then affiliate. I hired a bunch of Filipinos to run my self-storage call center. I became an investor a year later, bought in for 15% of the business, and then in 2024 is when I bought the majority of the business. But that was the next one. And then Ari Kosseg, the real estate services firm that's turning into a very big company with 60 plus employees, 700,000 plus a month of revenue. That was 2022. May of 2022, we started that business. So that's the 3-headed monster: Bolt Storage, somewhere.com, and Ari Kosseg. It was a power law of businesses that I started. The other 7 combined are worth a third as much as the smallest of those 3.
On the Somewhere deal, an interesting question I have here is that I think I heard on a different podcast that you were making something between $20 and $37 per month as an affiliate. And that's obviously like great cash flow for the business or for you personally. Why decide to go through this, take control and be responsible for it when you had that nice flow of cash coming to you?
One thing about me is that I have a unreasonable ambition and irrational confidence. So yeah, Marshall approached me in the fall of 2023 and said, "Hey, Nick, conversations have started with another big investor who wants to take control, own 51% of somewhere.com. And Nick, do you want to sell half your shares? I own 15% of the business. So some basic math here is north of $3 million for me to sell half my shares and I keep half my income coming in. I mean, that's not generational wealth, but that's life-changing money from a boy from Perry County, Indiana. So it would have been probably reasonable for me to take that deal. But I think somewhere.com is going to be a publicly traded company someday that's going to be very, very large. And I didn't want to look back and have a regret that I didn't take control of one of the best businesses that I'd ever been a part of.
So you just saw the potential. But then from deciding to be like, I want to control this, to actually making it happen, I want to understand like what you had to do, because you said to get the money or like some of the money.
Oh, it was madness. It was madness. Yeah. I had to negotiate a deal where there was enough upside for me. I had to raise 20 million bucks. I had to borrow 9 million bucks from Marshall personally. I had to find a way to structure it with all the investors. I did 2 tranches with 2 different carry. I didn't hire an investment banker. I hired some very good attorneys to help me. But yeah, it was an intense deal. And again, pattern in my life is very clear at this point that nobody is going to give a guy like me permission to do something like that. Oh, you're an influencer who tweets about storage. You're going to go raise 20 million bucks to buy a $50 million business. Are you mad? But I did it.
And the other thing that I find interesting about that deal, I think, is that you also, at the time of like doing the deal, you brought in a CEO. So you hired and implemented a CEO.
Oh yeah, there was so many moving parts because Marshall was the CEO running the business, but I needed a head of sales. I needed a CEO to replace Marshall so that he could go on to his next venture. He's a 0 to 1 guy, still a great friend. I'm sure he'll build another massive business, great operator. But I had to build the management team that was going to take over because I had my media. I just signed my book deal. I had Bolt Storage. I had Ari Koseg. So many moving parts over that 3-month period.
Which brings me nicely onto my next point about your time. Right now, maybe there's 5 areas. There's like the other 7 businesses. There's like personal brand, book, etc. Then there's 3 companies. So there's 5 things. Roughly, probably varies month to month, but roughly, well, where are you spending your time?
Man, I've gotten very good at pulling certain levers, and it's unbelievable the amount of similarities between the companies. So like we used Somewhere to rebuild our sales team at Bolt Storage in South Africa. And our conversion rate went from 30 to 42%. Massive value for our business. Because we hired a head of sales to coach our reps, to do performance management, get more serious about promotions and sales and callbacks. And our reps became salespeople instead of order takers, right? That move has increased our occupancy 10%, revenues up 14.1% Q1 at Bolt Storage, while the publicly traded companies like Extra Space and Public Storage saw revenue drop year over year. So that move changed everything at Bolt Storage. So guess what? We're rebuilding our sales team at somewhere.com in South Africa. We're rebuilding our sales team at Ari Koseg in South Africa. So we're making the same moves at all 3 companies. So yeah, it's fun running 3 companies. How my time is split, I would say 20% on my media and my brand, which fuels the business. I have a team there. I have a head of content, Colin. He's in the States, and he has 6 employees that work for him to run my personal brand, to run my newsletter, my books, my 2 podcasts, all of it that I have.
Roughly, if you're happy to share like the rough cost for that per month.
It's $350K a year at least. Colin, who is paid very well, and then 6 folks in South Africa, Latin America, and the Philippines.
Wow.
Because yeah, I have 2 podcasts. I have a 200 person newsletter. My media team is heavily involved in growth and marketing at all 3 of the businesses. I have my book. I have Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. I have all these social media platforms. So I have this podcast tour that my team helped me set up. So it's a business in itself that's probably 20% of my time. And then the rest of it comes in waves, kind of like last summer into the fall was very much Bolt Storage. I was fully focused on rebuilding that sales team, improving our marketing, improving our leasing, just making Bolt Storage better. Then you switch for a month and focus full into Ari Koseg. Then you move over and you're finding the lowest hanging fruit in each branch of all businesses. But luckily, I have some incredibly talented operators and people in these companies. So we can work together on figuring out what is the lowest hanging fruit for us to make the biggest impact in this business. And I'm helping executing, I'm helping with the hiring, I'm helping with the strategy, but I'm not doing any work, if that makes sense.
Do each of the 3 companies have a lead or a CEO? And then when you come in, you're like almost like special ops. You go in, do that, and then you come out. Like no one's reporting to you in those companies. Is that right?
Right.
Got it. Okay. And you're confident in making that $350,000 investment in the social content stuff because you'll see, I assume you're seeing the impact it has possibly on Somewhere the most because the audience of you personally is probably most aligned with the customers of Somewhere.
Yeah, look, I've raised $40 million on the back of my media brand for Bolt Storage. Without my media company, we have 8 storage facilities today. Instead, we have 65. I send $3 million a year of business to somewhere.com. I send $750K to $1 million a year to Ari Koseg, maybe more. I signed a $500,000 book deal with HarperCollins. All that money's flowing, but yeah, It's all a result of X. Like my entire world is a result of my brand. So it'd be foolish for me not to invest that money in it.
I assume there's excess cash is coming back into the middle. Are you planning on acquiring another one, or what are we doing with the cash?
It's so lumpy. It's really funny. When you're running businesses like this, I'm an investor in a pest control business that I've put $500,000 plus in. Titan Risk has been phenomenally capital intensive. I'm $350,000 deep in investing in that business. It's got potential, but property and casualty insurance business is hard. The business brokerage has been a capital suck. I'm investing all this cash into my media company. And then, RE Cost Seg, Somewhere.com, and Bolt Storage are all profitable. But at Bolt Storage, interest rates doubled and my promote shrunk from $50K a quarter personally to $20K a quarter personally cash flow. Virtually went away. Then Somewhere.com, we have our busy season, which is May, June, July, August, where we are rocking and rolling, and I'm making $100,000 a month or so from those businesses. But then there's the November, December when you can't get anybody to hire to save your life and the company breaks even. RE Cost Seg, super seasonal as well. Like in the spring tax season, we do $750,000 a month. We're hunkering down for the next 4 months to break even or make a little bit of money. So super, super lumpy cash flow that's coming in. And with all the investment opportunities in my storage and these side ventures, some days you feel broke.
In terms of personal cash flow, at least it seems that you don't have like massive needs from my view of your social media personality. But has that gone up, I guess, in the last few years once the cash has increased?
I've been very careful about increasing personal overhead. I still live in a house that I paid $300,000 for. I mean, I'm spending more money. Private healthcare is expensive. Found out my mom was stressed and working for $14 an hour. So we changed that. Like little things like that add to the overhead. But I didn't buy a $3 million beach house. I didn't join an exclusive mountaintop country club with, big house in it. So I've been very careful about increasing my burn. If things are really slowed down, I could cut my annual burn to under $200,000 a year.
Nice. Let's talk about The Sweaty Startup, the book that was released recently. It's linked below. The Amazon link is below. Go and buy a copy. Can you share a little bit about why the book?
So my message is not a sexy one. This book will never sell 1 million copies, but entrepreneurship, when it comes to the media, is dominated by new idea, change the world, raise money type of entrepreneurship. So you talk to any 18 to 30-year-old aspiring entrepreneur, and they are programmed to think that they need a new idea, they need to raise money, they need a new product, they need to go on Shark Tank, they need to move to Silicon Valley to build wealth. And that is terrible. It's a pandemic among entrepreneurs to think that way, because all the wealthy people I know, they did common things uncommonly well. They started a business where there were competitors, and they iterated and they out-operated and they beat them. So they did not have a new idea. They made their wealth by out-executing the competition. So this book is about doing common things uncommonly well and thinking about entrepreneurship in a whole new way.
I'm totally with you on the anti-VC stuff. Like you just look at the numbers, like out of the percentage, the number of people who've ever got rich from taking VC investment is like infinitesimally small. Everyone thinks that here's the only route to getting wealthy. So I'm totally behind that message. The book is linked below. Nick, I want to thank you so much for coming on today, but also want to thank you for everything that I've learned from you without ever meeting you, from X, from podcasts, etc. I really like following people that are very open, especially with numbers, and you are. So it really helps me. So thanks for coming on. It's been awesome.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
All right, team, what do we think? Epic. I love how open Nick is as well about all the numbers. Super useful for anyone trying to do a similar thing. So Nick's book recently released, Sweaty Startup. Go and check it out. It'll be linked below. I highly recommend it. Obviously, massive shout out to Nick for coming on the show. Shout out to Fame for producing this episode. And thanks to you for listening.